Standing here today at Hume Castle in the Scottish borders, this was the ancestral seat of the very powerful family, the Humes. This castle would play a role in many significant events in Scottish history and has rightfully earned its place as one of Scotland's most famous castles. This was once the most strategic position in the eastern march of the Scottish borders. Looking around me, you can see the panoramic views of the Cheviots in the south bordering England, to the west the Eildons in the Tweed Valley, and to the north the Lammermuir Hills bordering East Lothian. Hume Castle was situated on a rocky outcrop about around 230 metres above sea level and would have occupied an extremely strategic position. Looking out today, even if you are not a fan of Scottish history, you can still come here and appreciate the view at Hume Castle. On a sunny day like this, it's absolutely spectacular. Today, the lands around Hume Castle are extremely peaceful and idyllic, yet just several centuries ago, they were filled with constant turmoil and terror. The Scottish borders was a lawless frontier which was subject to many battles, skirmishes, and raids. It was endemic with violence. Hume Castle played a role in several key conflicts in Scottish history. In the Wars of Independence, Hume Castle was actually spared from Robert the Bruce's infamous scorched earth policy. Later on in 1460, James II used Hume Castle as a base towards his siege at Roxburgh Castle. Unfortunately, James was blown up by a cannon and died in one of the most tragic deaths in Scottish history. I'll do a future video on Roxburgh Castle and the unfortunate fate of James and many of the other Stuarts at a later date. Hume Castle was utterly and almost completely destroyed by the Parliamentarian army following a siege in 1651. After the Scottish defeat at Dunbar in 1650, the Parliamentarian army ravaged much of the land and many castles in Scotland were razed to the ground. The walls you see behind me here today are not the original medieval walls of Hume Castle. These walls were built in the 18th century as a folly by the Earl of Marchmont. They were purposely built this way and intended to be seen from Marchmont House just a few miles away. The walls here are not built for defence, but more for an eye catcher from the nearby house. However, there is one small fragment of the medieval castle. This wall would have once formed an inner tower, and now it occupies the central courtyard of Hume Castle. During the 1745 Jacobite Rising, Hume Castle was briefly occupied by the government forces as a way of keeping the Jacobite forces in check. In 1804, during the Napoleonic Wars, Hume Castle was used as a lookout for beacons which would warn off the impending French invasion if it ever happened. Unfortunately, a man mistook a fire on a nearby hill for one of the beacons, and the alarm was raised. 3,000 people were ready to fight the oncoming French invasion. It turned out to be a false alarm in the end, so I suppose it was better to be safe than sorry. Now that's all for me today. Hume Castle had an extremely rich history that cannot simply be covered in one video. I will definitely have to make a part 2. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. I welcome any suggestions for future videos, and it is my aim to record one video a week this summer, so leave a comment below if you have any ideas. Thank you.